DC Talk's Jesus Freak album. That's not a worship album. The song Jesus Freak is not a worship song. You could not sing that on Sunday morning. But it's so fun.
I mean, you could try.
You could try, yeah. But it's just a fun song about,
Yeah.
something about a guy's belly tattoo wiggling and stuff. I don't know. It's just
like marmalade jelly.
Yeah, like marmalade jelly. Yeah.
The aftermath of fallen leaders tend to leave those in the wake angry, hurting, bitter, and questioning their faith. But good things can come in the aftermath as well. When the lights are turned on in the dark, the character of those around them is often exposed. Like a house of cards, securities in the system are exposed as false securities, faithful men with skeletons in their closets, now in the spotlight for their part in the cover-up. Villains emerge around others who have found men to help cover their sins. And sometimes a bigger villain emerges, a character who, for his own greed, exposes a system that has systematically fleeced the sheep of God's flock. A villain or villains who, in their pride and self-preservation, bring to revelation a scam that has long been a pull against the heartstrings of those who hear the words for grace and compassion. An altar call of guilt of your own wealth, pictures up on the big screen to get the audience to dig deep in their wallets to support the least of these children. A manipulation of words and scripture to fill the pockets of those who hold only themselves as appropriate for entitlement. On this episode of Bad Fruit, we will look at the aftermath of the fall of Michael Tait and the money scheme that it exposed. What is done in the dark will be announced in the light.
Welcome to the Bad Fruit Podcast. I am your host, Jonathan, and I'm joined with my brother and co-host, Judah. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. You had a good week or so?
Yeah, last couple weeks have been good.
Awesome. So you brought this topic to my attention, and I was kind of unaware of it. And I'd seen some headlines, but I didn't really read too deeply into them. And then you're like, have you heard about this? And I was like, no, I haven't. So I think it's a really good topic, especially considering the fact that we've done a couple episodes on church hurt. And we've obviously talked a lot about bad fruit in the church here. So you brought up this topic of the aftermath of church hurt, or the aftermath of a disaster in the church. And so I think it's a good topic. So why don't you kind of tell us a little bit about what you told me, and we can kind of dig into it.
Sure, yeah. I think starting out was this story that just has been coming out lately, the Michael Tait and the Julie Roys, them exposing just that whole system that Newsboys was in, the cover-up culture in that. And it kind of got me and my wife talking about just kind of like how it seems like when one of these leaders falls, or celebrity, whatever it is, there tends to be some aftermath that happens that sometimes is good, sometimes is bad, but where just more things are exposed, and it almost continues to open doors to bigger, like sometimes it's bigger things. I don't want to say what the original thing wasn't important or anything like that.
Right. Obviously.
But, a good example would be Robert Morris. Everybody knows Robert Morris. He went down, and when he went back to his church to get his severance package, they told him no. And so he said, okay, then I'm throwing all you guys under the bus. And so he ends up exposing everybody that knew, and helped him cover up his big crime, and that landed him in jail. And that put people who, we're talking something that was, these elders are now at other churches, they're pastors everywhere, and all of a sudden it's coming out that they helped Robert Morris cover up his crime, which was really bad. And
they should all be in jail, probably.
Yeah. and it's one of those things where now these pastors who from the pulpit were saying, hey, no, Robert Morris is lying. That never happened. Well, then the emails come out that prove that these guys knew and show them to be liars and helped cover them up. And so now these megachurch pastors get fired or resign because they know, there's no hope for me in this. And you just see that. It's like one guy goes down, and next thing you know, everybody that helped cover it up, slowly, it's always, slower. It's like something else comes up. Oh, wow. Oh, we didn't know there was this recording or this email or whatever. And so all of a sudden now, slowly, there's this aftermath where you start realizing, like, man, everybody helped cover this up, or these people helped cover it up. And we started reading this story that Julie Roy's reported about Michael Tait, and the most recent information that's come out now is the owner of the Newsboys is suing Julie Roy's some firm in Switzerland, Mercy Me, and some other different entities are all getting sued by this owner of Newsboys, and he's claiming it was this big conspiracy to steal money from him. And so as you read this lawsuit, it exposes this bigger, not bigger than what happened with Michael Tait, but just this bigger, broader problem within the Christian music industry,
Right.
that is kind of it's not illegal, we'll just say this, but it's sort of a charitable money laundering scheme, if you would, the way it's being used. And we'll kind of get into that and explain it here
Sure.
in a few minutes. And so this guy is claiming and his name's Wes Campbell, and he bought the Newsboys in 2009. He acquired their the band and their touring incorporation. It's like Newsboys Inc.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a band member of Newsboys, you're just an employee. You're not really the band. This guy is he's the owner of Newsboys. I'm sure if we dig deep into some of the older 80s and 90s Christian bands, that weren't just one singer, is a whole band. I'm sure a lot of them are probably owned by different entities now or individuals. But Newsboys happens to be that one. That's why they were able to look for a new lead singer. They found Michael Tait, brought him in. And so this guy, Wes Campbell, he buys Newsboys. So he's making the decisions for Newsboys. He's deciding, what songs get through to the next album. He's setting up tour dates. He's in charge. It's his band. So this guy goes down in this whole thing with Michael Tait. And he's claiming in his lawsuit, and again, this is stuff that's, it's all pending. We're just going based off the stories that are out there. So he is claiming that it was a conspiracy because now he's out $50 million that he was going to make on tour off of selling subscriptions to World Vision. And when I started reading, my wife and I started reading I think Variety had an article on it. It's just hilarious. Like, they're fighting over subscriptions that they get paid on to pass on to World Vision. That's what this lawsuit's about. And just reading the comments afterwards, it was hilarious because it was like, these people are like, there goes my whole childhood. And if I talked to some different people this week who had been to, like, they did it at if anyone here in Springfield has ever gone out to Winter Jam, they'll attest to that. Halfway through the concert, all of a sudden, the sappy music starts playing. Either somebody comes up or one of the band members is like, hey guys, God's really doing a work, this, that, the other, and we need you guys to sign up and sponsor a kid for whether it's One Child or World Vision. There's so many of these charities, and in no way are those charities bad. Like if you're giving to World Vision or One Child, those corporations, or I should say those charities, 501c3s, they're doing a good work. That's not where we have an issue. But what's taking place is they're getting these bands, or in this case Wes Huff, not Wes Huff, Wes Campbell.
You don't mess with
Don't mess with Wes Huff. Yeah, Wes Campbell. He was profiting off of, because he owned the band. So when he got Newsboys to get World Vision sponsors, he was getting $200 to $500 per person that signed up to sponsor a child. So, yeah, you heard that right. It's $200 to $500 per child that you sign up. They pay you, and it's part of their promotional. And a lot of these charities do this. It's their way, because celebrities can, cue the sappy music, begin to pull at your heartstring. But what this exposed was, with this lawsuit, is the heart of what drives these Christian artists to do that. They're profiting. They're making more off of, in some cases, they're making more off of your child sponsor. If you sign up at their concert, they're making more off of that than they are on ticket sales. And this Wes Campbell has kind of exposed the industry of the Christian music. Is they're saying there's bands that can't survive. That's their only way of that's almost their only source of income, is by selling these child subscriptions. And it's just insane. It's like, literally the Christian music industry is profiting off of pulling on your heartstrings, getting you to feel this, kind of this guilt, putting the pictures up on the screen, and then you sign up.
Yeah.
But their whole purpose of doing this is they're getting $200 to $500 per signature they're getting, and then they're taking those. It's almost like, people that do those signatures for ballots, like, hey, we want to get a ballot to go, to pass a law. Like, you see somebody at the grocery store, like, hey, will you sign this to get this Prop 2 passed or whatever. Well, that person out there, they don't really, most of the time, they don't care about Prop 2. They're getting paid $1 or $2 every signature they bring back to the people that actually care. And so this is kind of like how this works is, hey, if Newsboys sign 100 kids tonight and they're getting $500 per kid, when they go back to World Vision, they say, hey, here's 100 new signatures. Here's 100 new, people that have signed up. They're getting $500 per sign up. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does. I want to back up a little bit with what actually is going on here. So, and it sucks, because I grew up listening to, and I know you did too, Newsboys, DC Talk, right? So Newsboys was founded by, it's an Australian band founded by Peter Fuller, Joel Phillip. And actually, so what I found here is that Wes Campbell was there at the beginning. So he didn't acquire this. He's been there from the beginning. So he's actually listed as the founder of Newsboys. So he's been a part of the band for a long time. I'm assuming he's their manager, is basically what it looks like. That's what I found online, at least. So
okay,
I could be wrong.
Well, I found online that he acquired the rights to it in 2009. So whether he was there the whole time or not.
Oh, okay, it's possible.
Yeah,
it's weird, because the thing I found, it listed him as the founder of Newsboys, as one of the founders, which is fine.
Hey, let's argue over which AI we read that's right.
Oh, this wasn't AI. This is Wikipedia. I think.
That's even better.
Yeah, these are peer reviewed. Yeah. No. Anyways, it doesn't matter. The point being is that Michael Tait was part of DC Talk, and so I'll be completely honest with you, though. When Michael Tait came on to Newsboys, I did not like. I don't know what it was. Like, Newsboys' sound changed in the early 2000s. I stopped listening to them. I did. God's Not Dead,
Yeah.
overrated song.
Yeah,
Totally
no.
overrated song. The last album of theirs that I actually truly enjoyed was Love Liberty Disco, which was 99.
Yes.
That's the last time I actually liked it.
Was that right after Step Up to the Microphone?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Yep.
Stepping Up to the Microphone was 98. Super great. Basically, you had Not Ashamed in 92, Going Public in 94, Take Me to Your Leader in 96, Stepping Up to the Microphone 98, and then Love Liberty Disco in 99. Like, just the 90s
Yeah.
back-to-back hits. And then they did Thrive, and I did not care about that. And then they tried to do Worship, and I just didn't care about that. Yeah, I just...
No, I'm with you. I stopped at Love Liberty Disco as well.
Yeah.
That's I couldn't tell you a song after that.
Yeah, I mean, the only one I know is God's Not Dead, but again, I feel like that was such an overrated song. And then Michael Tait, obviously part of DC Talk. And the funny thing is, I actually, I liked Jesus Freak and Supernatural, and that's it. Those are the
Right.
only two DC Talk albums I liked.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Yeah.
And Supernatural wasn't even that great, but it wasn't a terrible album.
Right. Yeah.
Had a couple good songs on it. So all that to say is, these two bands dominated the 90s.
Absolutely.
Just dominated
Yeah.
it. Right?
Oh, yeah. No, I
And-
can't even tell you how many times I saw Newsboys and DC Talk in concert. I mean,
yeah.
it's over 10.
And then
on
obviously
each of
DC
them.
Talk had what's that other guy's name? Toby Mac
And Kevin.
Well, yeah, but did Kevin have a
Kevin.
career after DC Talk?
Yeah, he did a solo album, but
but Toby Mac had a huge career.
yeah,
I didn't like his solo stuff, but I know he had a pretty big
he
career.
had a couple good songs on his solo career.
So all that to say, though, is that these bands were huge, and when Michael Tait joins Newsboys in 2009, I believe, this is like merging. This is like a super band at this point, right? It'd be like if you got all the best players on your football team. Like if your fantasy football team, became a real football team. Like that's what's going on here.
Sure,
as far as the Christian music industry goes, right? You're merging the two biggest groups of the 90s, or two of the biggest groups, together. You have Michael Tait as part of the Newsboys. Again, personally, I wasn't a huge fan, but I know that they did sell a lot of albums, merch, all this stuff. And so it makes sense to me that whether it's World Vision or whatever the charities are, reaching out to Newsboys, or Newsboys reaching out, however it goes, it makes sense, right? Because if you want to raise money for a charity, you go after the where people are going to be, and so this super band now, Newsboys, is got Michael Tait. They're trying to raise money at these at the concerts, right? It makes sense. The problem is that when stuff started coming out about Michael Tait, I'll be honest with you. At first, I was a little shocked, because I actually thought that Newsboys was one of the good guys out there. Now, I want to be really clear. Peter Fuller has not been involved with Newsboys since the early 2000s, and he's the guy behind all the Newsboys albums that we liked.
Right,
that was
yeah.
Peter Fuller.
Yep.
He's not there anymore, and he hasn't been there for a very long time. So Michael Tait is after him. But still, I thought Newsboys was one of the good bands,
Oh yeah.
But
no.
again, it's kind of a little bit of a different band. It's now Michael Tait and other people. I think a couple members have been there from the very beginning, but
I think it was it the Babylon Bee? I think somebody did something where everybody, anybody can become part of the Newsboys. They're doing auditions.
oh yeah,
they're oh yeah, I'm retiring. They're
at
like,
some
oh
point-
no, come
Yeah.
work, come be the lead singer for Newsboys. So hey, I'm gonna clarify Wes Campbell.
okay.
So because I said 2009. 2009 was when he became the sole owner. So he was there as their manager from the beginning.
Okay.
And in 1999, Wes Campbell and Peter Furler they were two owners. So it was Peter Furler and Wes Campbell. And and that's when they started a kind of like a joint business venture between the two. So I think that was probably when, just something happened where he's kind of like, hey, let's do it this way and do these different things. So it became a joint ownership partnership in the mid 90s is what it says, in the mid 90s. And then they started a record company together in 1999. That's what it is. So it wasn't until 2009 that when Peter Furler departed that he just basically sold it all off to Wes Campbell. So he did acquire it solely. So it wasn't like just some outside business guy came in and bought it. He was there with them the whole time. So he was trying to definitely keep the spirit of who the Newsboys are. It
we're all
like
correct then.
Yes,
we were both correct for different things.
There you go.
So, so he was there. Campbell was there from the beginning
as their manager. Yeah,
as a
so
manager.
He wasn't
so
necessarily part of the creative.
He was. That makes sense. He was considered a founder, and then he and Furler create what it kind of becomes, and then at some point Peter's gone.
In 2009.
And so then Wes becomes the sole owner.
Correct.
Okay,
yep.
So that actually kind of makes sense because Peter seems to be done with the Newsboys around that time.
Yep.
For whatever reason. And again, Peter is the one who does all the good Newsboys stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
At least in my opinion. And I'm not just saying that because we're talking about this and I'm like, they suck now because of Michael Tait. And, of course I knew he was a terrible. No, I didn't know any of that. Like I said, I liked DC Talk. I thought they were one of the good people or one of the good groups. And so when this broke originally about Michael Tait, and I don't really want to get too much into what he's accused of because it's weird. And basically it's sexual assault, and it has to do with other dudes, and it's very weird. There's stuff about him like living with families, like it's weird. I don't know. Anyways, like people just let him live at their house, and like, and then like he would have people from his tour, like groupies and stuff, just coming to this house that wasn't even his own house. And he's like not a poor person. Like Michael Tait's not, incapable of owning his own home, but he's just living with random people. I don't know. There's so many weird layers to his story, and you can look it up. Julie Roy's has done a bunch on it. Other websites have done it. So yeah, look it up yourself. But
right, yeah, because and tonight what we're talking about the aftermath. So here's a guy who, Michael Tait, who he falls. He's lead singer of the Newsboys. He falls, but that's not the end of the story. And so that story went, it went public.
Going public.
And so that falls.
Campbell will probably sue me if I play that song.
Right, yeah, he can't, yeah. For $50.4 million.
Yeah.
No, but so we expect that. Somebody, this person falls, you find out more about that person, and then they go through their process of how they, either they leave the faith, they come back to the faith, however that plays out. And we're still praying for Michael Tait. I think I read his repentance letter and seeing kind of the choices he's been making. He seems like a genuine Christian who just struggles with a lot of things. Not saying that there shouldn't be or should be jail time or anything with him, but he has definitely come clean and honest and has said, yes, I need help. And I think that's what you can hope for in somebody like that. But then you have him falling exposes, because now you have this guy, Wes Campbell, who has been making millions of dollars. And his claim is that because of this lawsuit again, or this exposure of Michael Tait, that it cost him $50.4 million because of lost, and this is, it's not lost ticket sales, it's not merchandise sales. He's claiming that he lost $50.4 million in potential profits from selling World Vision child sponsorships. That's his lawsuit. That's his entitled. I'm entitled to the profits of people signing up to give to World Vision. I'm entitled to that. I need $50.4 million because that's how much I would have made if Michael Tait hadn't fallen.
So it's a little bit weirder than just that. He is also the founder of Thriving Children Advocates. And this is central to the lawsuit here. So what they functioned as was essentially a middleman. So
correct, yes.
The Thriving Children Advocates operated behind the scenes, and according to this, it says structuring relationships between artists and nonprofits. A typical concert an artist would perform, a charity such as World Vision would present a sponsorship opportunity, and audience members would sign up to support the cause. What fans saw was a charity. What they did not see was the immediate coordinating the deal and or the intermediary coordinating the deal and handling the compliance. So what it sounds like here is that he created a middleman.
Correct, yes.
For charity.
Yes.
And got paid. So again, we're not attacking World Vision. We're not even I mean, this has nothing to do with World Vision, but so his organization, Thriving Children Advocates, signs up people to support World Vision or some charity like that. World Vision pays them, and then Thriving Children Advocates then pays out the artists for doing it. So this lists Mercy Me and a couple other bands that had been part of this.
Correct, yeah. So think of it this way, like World Vision pays me, Thrive, $500 a kid, and then I go to you, Mercy Me, or Hawk Nelson, whoever, and I say, hey, I'll give you $200 per kid. So now Thrive is making $300 per kid, but he's paying out $200, or whatever they arrange with each of these bands. I'm sure smaller bands, they give them smaller amounts, but so he's alleging basically
because
that
Michael Tait fell,
right,
and because he was part of Newsboys, and because of all the backlash that some of these bands didn't want to participate with his.
Correct. Yeah. Everybody in the industry
charity
knew that. Yeah. That
so
Wes
now,
Campbell owned Thrive and owned the Newsboys,
and it raises a lot of questions because I know the official statement of Campbell is that he was unaware of Tait's actions. That's the official statement that I saw online.
Yep.
And so we'll take his word as with a grain of salt and at face value for the moment being, at least. But it does raise a lot of questions, and I know that, again, we're not really talking about what happened with Tait, but I know that after it happened, there were a lot of people who came forward about how this was known, like that this was a kind of secret that was known by some people in the industry, and there were other artists who were doing similar things, and in other words, the Christian music industry isn't as clean as they want you to think it is. And so when Michael Tait falls, and again, hopefully he comes back around and all of that, like you said there. I mean, we want him to be restored, and we want him to find the help he needs. But when someone that big falls, it does start the domino effect of the questions: who knew what and when. And so it makes sense that the like you said, he's the sole owner of this organization, that he didn't know at all. And so it makes sense that people might question his ability to manage his own band, and to what was he allowing and what was he not allowing. And so then if he owns this other middleman group, well, maybe we distance ourselves from that too, because we don't want to be associated. Like, I'm just saying it makes sense, the backlash. But what's crazy to me is, like what you said when we first talked about this, is he's not even upset about the Michael Tait thing. This is solely about his money.
Right,
It's just so weird to me.
And he's not mad at Michael Tait. He's
Yeah.
mad at the people who stopped wanting to sponsor him. Which
Yeah.
you have a right to not sponsor somebody, as far as or sign with somebody, so in other words, I think with like Mercy Me, they decided to go straight to World Vision, or they decided to go start their own middle company. I don't know exactly, but he's saying no, they were gonna sign with me. Like, I was gonna have this money, these sponsorships, and then they decided not to. So he's saying Julie Roy's, that other company that's out of Switzerland, Mercy Me, they all conspired, this big conspiracy, to bring him down and steal his money. That they used the Michael Tait thing to do that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's obviously funny. I love Julie's response. They're like, let's do it. Because similarly, when she exposed James McDonald at Harvest Bible Chapel, she was one of the original people that exposed him for bullying, mishandling of money, like all kinds of stuff. But he brought a lawsuit against her, and because of that, it allowed the courts to allow Julie Roy's and her lawyers to do, I think it's called exposure, where they can actually dig deeper to prove that they were right.
Right.
And then John MacArthur's like, wait, no, we changed our mind. And the judge was like, no, we're actually going to let it. You said to do it, so let's do it.
Is it John MacArthur?
No, James McDonald.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, James. She did expose John MacArthur. If you go on our website, I mean, they got all their stories. They've got 5 or 6 stories on John Lindell, classical conversations. I mean, everything. They don't hold back. If you're doing something illegal or doing cover up, they're most likely gonna do a story on you. All that say is they're not worried about this lawsuit, because obviously they didn't conspire. Like, Michael Tait is the guy that Wes Campbell should be upset at. Like, you brought the Newsboys down, unfortunately. And yeah, maybe they'll get a new lead singer and they can rebrand, all those things. But what we're looking at is, one, who this guy's blaming. One, he's not blaming Michael Tait for the fall of the Newsboys. He's blaming the people that exposed it, people that stopped sponsoring him, all that stuff. And what he's complaining about, his complaint is, man, all that money that's being, that's out there for signing up kids, that's my money. I'm entitled to that money. I want that money.
Right.
I mean, do you see the, like, where, I mean, in anything, where's the Christianity in that?
Right. Yeah.
That I should be making all this money on these kids all over these different countries that we're trying to sponsor. Like, that's my money. I should get that money. And it just blows my mind. It's like, that's, and then it exposes the Christian industry too, because they're saying and alleging in here that Christian musicians can't make money off ticket sales. This is how they make their money, off of marketing these charities. That's how they're making the bulk of their money. If they just go on tour and they don't do this, then the cost of renting the venue, the cost of hired security, all that stuff, your $15 to $45 ticket, they're not making enough money to survive.
I think that's actually true in the non-Christian world too.
Right. Yeah. Sure.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Usually ticket sales is not where any band makes
Right.
any money.
Right.
It's on merch.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's,
and then
it's
you're
on,
selling.
or other things.
Yeah. You're selling merchandise.
And I'm sure there's a non-Christian version of this going on, because
absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
There's so many different charities that, and even non-Christians partner with Christian charities, right? So like World Vision, maybe it's a Christian organization, but hey, if you're a non-Christian band that really cares about social justice issues, you might be like, hey, let's partner with this organization. It doesn't matter, it's Christian. And so at the end, you say, hey, everybody, go ahead and do this. Like,
Sure. Yeah.
And
yeah.
again, I don't. Here's where I want to be clear. Like, I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with charities doing these things, and I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with bands promoting charities.
Right.
I think where the issue that this has exposed to us is to me at least, this is my opinion, right? Is that, and we've known this for a long time about charity in general, okay? But this is exposes it in a new way that I guess I wasn't fully aware of, right? And that is that when you give money to a charity, and this is almost universally true, I don't want to say it's always true because there's probably exceptions to it, and I think I know of a few, but or I think I've heard of some, but most of the time you're only giving about 10 cents on the dollar is what I've heard. Now, I think it's more than that in some charities, maybe even less than that in other charities. But like for every dollar given to the charity, the majority of it goes to their overhead, goes to paying, different things. The CEOs of, or, I don't know if they're called CEOs because they're nonprofits, but the person running the charity typically gets a really nice salary.
Sure, yeah.
They get access to private planes. They take people out to nice dinners to get new donors and all this stuff. And my point being is that what dollar for dollar, how much is actually helping the target, demographic or group that you. So like they show you a bunch of poor kids in Africa, and it pulls at your heartstring. And then you find out that for every kid signed up, they're getting $200, right? Or $500. Like, okay, well, where's that money actually coming from? How is my, $20 a month donation going to do anything?
Sure, yeah.
If the first, so many years has to cover the $200, $500 just to have that kid signed up.
Right. So I did some of the math, some different websites I read did math as well.
Oh, good old math.
So
we could have had a mathematician on to cover it.
So
do all this.
Basically, and so we support a charity we have for 18 years now, the same one. It's been 18 years. So we pay, I want to say we pay around $35. No, actually it's $39 a month. So we've been doing that. So that's $468 a year times 18 years. So that's $8,424. So we have given to the same charity, and I'm not saying this to like toot my own horn or anything. I'm just using my math with the charity that we've given to consistently. We've given to other things and whatever, but this has been the consistent one because it's automatically withdrawn out of our account. We've had the same account for 18 years. So you figure now we signed up at a church when we did it, and their structure with churches is different. They don't make money off the churches, or they don't give out money to the churches. But my point is, if we would have signed up at a Mercy Me concert or a Newsboys concert.
Yeah.
So your first year is basically, your first year of giving is that it goes straight to, I mean, obviously they give give them the check right away, of all of it. But
Yeah.
it's my first year of giving goes to that celebrity or band, and then the rest of that goes on. So they're banking on your long-term giving, and they actually give more. So if you do automatic withdrawals, then you get an even bigger bonus. It's like an extra $35 to $50 bonus if you get those people to do automatic withdrawals.
Because most people, if they're doing it automatically, they're just going to forget about it.
Right, yeah. Because honestly, there's times we forgot. We were like, man, we should cancel. We can't afford it. And then it's like, then it comes out and you're just like, well, okay. And then the next month you have a better month. And then so you just keep it. So versus sending a check every month, forgetting. So they're banking on you, being a long-term donor. So yeah, I mean, over 18 years, if the average family is giving, $500 a year that signs up, your first year goes to that person. Now, World Vision has, and there's a bunch of different websites that have their like charity rating websites. So I went on a few and looked up World Vision. So they have an A- rating. They claim, and this again, like this is based on their filling out whatever that form is they fill out.
Sure.
So 82% of their revenue that their amount brought in is spent on programs. So what they're saying is 82 cents on the dollar is spent on programs, which that's a very high percentage. That's
Like actually helping people.
yeah, well, spent on programs.
Okay.
Okay. So you can look at, and that's where, again, we've talked about this with churches. We've talked about this with all, nonprofits, is there are things like you could be on salary for, let's say, $80,000 a year. And your job is to make sure those programs are moving smooth. So that would be money towards the program. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's not saying 82 cents is actually landing in the hand of that child on every dollar. It's just saying 82% is spent on those programs, however that looks. We don't know if that means supplies, plane tickets. Does keeping the program going, is that in part of their advertising, their bonuses? Yeah. Like, I don't know how that's separated. There's a lot of, most of the charities that are cancer related, like the cancer funds, children's cancer, all those charities, they all have like F ratings, and a lot of them get shut down once they get exposed, because those are the ones where 10 cents on the dollar is actually being given to the child.
Yeah.
If you want a real sad news, the Make-A-Wish Foundation, those are F rating. They're way at the bottom. They hardly do anything
Well,
for anybody. So
I got involved with a charity in the early 2000s. I don't know if you remember Invisible Children.
No, I don't remember that one.
It was a big thing. They had a viral campaign and everything, and there was a lot of controversy around it, but it seemed really cool. I think they're actually not an organization anymore, but it came out that literally 80% of what they were. One of their controversies was 80% of everything that they were bringing in was going towards them making documentaries. They also like fibbed a little bit in their documentaries, and anyways, point being, and I'm not even saying that means that 20% was actually going to the actual children and to charity. I don't know. I just know there's a big controversy around it, so I stopped supporting them once that came out. And again, they kind of lied about a few things, and it was bad. But I kind of got into it because it was a very compelling campaign, when it first came out. and the documentary pulls at your heartstrings, and you think, well, wow, like these people are wanting to do really good. And I think that's mostly true with a lot of charities. I really do. Like I think that somebody starts a charity because they want to do good. I don't necessarily think that they're all in it for money laundering or to get rich, but just the practicality of raising money. You need to have marketing, and all of a sudden, it's like your good intentions pull in a lot of money for you. And so, all that to say is, this is not against the charities, but it does expose the interesting side of all of this, which is the middleman broker status of it as well. And I mean, I understand why those things might exist, right? So you have a charity, let's say, and then there's all these bands out there, and you're like, how do I get my charity to those bands, right? Well, it might be easier for you to just hire somebody and have that person be the liaison between you and all those bands. And so this charity organization, or whatever you want to call it, becomes the middleman broker. And it's like, hey, I'll bring you money. You pay me money, I'll bring you money, kind of thing, right? And so, and Campbell obviously knows the industry. He's been with the Newsboys from the beginning as a manager, and then he's the sole owner. And he's like, hey, he probably knows most of the managers and bands out there too. He's like, hey, man, here's this charity. You can help them out. You can get paid, all this stuff. But it exposes this, and like you said at the beginning, this isn't illegal necessarily, right? And I don't even think Julie Royce is really questioning the legality of what he's doing or any of these things, right? And so, like, that's not even part of the conversation. I think it is sketchy in a lot of ways, but it's not technically illegal or anything like that. It's not technically money laundering, and so he's legitimately bringing people to these charities to get them money, and these bands are making money. And his whole thing is he's sad that he's potentially lost out on $50 million, right? But I think it exposes this side of Christian music and just the Christian industry in general. It's just like the world. It's just about the bottom dollar, right?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Like, and then we look at bands or worship bands. This is nefarious. We need to talk about this one day. But worship bands make money when you sing their songs at church on Sunday morning.
Yeah, I was going to kind of correlate that in because it's run almost like a stock market, the way it's sold. Chris Tomlin has sold so many of his songs to private corporations. There's corporations that's all they do. That's their corporation, is they buy Christian music. And what's crazy is, let's say they buy your favorite worship song, okay? Whoever's listening, just think of your favorite worship song you sing on Sunday morning. A corporation owns it, and they'll actually use their money to promote that song on radio stations. In other words, they invest in trying to push that song, even if it's a 10-year-old song. They'll find ways to push it, and when they do that, then it's in people's ears, and then all of a sudden, your music pastor is singing it on Sunday morning, and they're making, we're talking in the hundreds of thousands of dollars every Sunday based on songs, the top songs, because you have to report that if you're part of, it's not ASCAP, but it's something like ASCAP. That's the secular one. There's a Christian music one too, but it's basically the rights you pay in.
Yeah.
Your church will pay in. Most churches pay in. I don't even know how much it is a month, but let's say it's $30 a month. You pay into the company that passes out the rights, and then they pay out to the owners of the songs. So me and you could buy a Chris Tomlin song, and if it's sung on Sunday morning, we get royalties.
Right. Yeah. No. There's a couple of things for clarity. So one is that, yes, these broker people make money. Now the band still makes money off of all these. So like Chris Tomlin makes money when his song is sung at your church through royalties. And that is one way that bands do actually make money is through royalties. And so in that sense, it's like, okay, these are copyrighted songs, based on our laws. If you want to sing a copyrighted thing or show a copyrighted movie, you have to pay for the rights to it. So like, I'm not necessarily opposed to that aspect of it, right? But your church isn't paying Chris Tomlin to sing his song. They're paying into a catalog, and then they report the songs, and then the catalog then pays out the people.
Correct, yes.
And this is why I am very particular about why I don't think that we should be singing Bethel, Hillsong, Elevation songs at churches, because you actually are financially supporting through royalties those organizations, those churches. Now, you're right
yeah.
that there's a broker who's ultimately owning these, and like you said, anybody could buy these and get royalties from it, but the artists are also still getting it. And I was actually going in a slightly different direction about royalties and things like that, is that churches, right? So I believe this is true at Elevation, but I know it's true at other churches as well. The lead pastor or one of the pastors is part of the band, quote unquote. They don't sing. They're sometimes listed as a songwriter, although I question how much, Stephen Furtick's ability to write a song is, right? And so because it's their church, they get to tack their name onto it. And they'll even put themselves on the album cover, right? And all of that is for royalty credits. Because Stephen Furtick, all he has to do, I'm picking on old Steve, because we haven't really picked on him too much at the podcast.
I know we need to. We need to do.
We really haven't talked about him much.
We need to do something with him.
So, but this is where I heard it was about him, but I've also heard it for other ones as well. So basically, his worship team writes all the songs. He looks over them, maybe changes a word here or there, whatever it is. Maybe he doesn't even go that far. He lists himself as a band member, as a songwriter. He's on the cover of their album, or in the credits, and he gets royalty checks. It's crazy, right? He has nothing to do with anything. And the actual people who are in the band, the actual people that are doing all the work, yeah, they're not getting as big of a royalty check as he is, And then so all that to say is the Christian music industry. We really should just do like a deep dive into it, and especially the music royalty thing, because I think that'd be great. But it's all about money. At the end of the day, it is all about money, and so they're counting on you to get emotional with a certain song, so you want to sing it at your church, and they can get more money from you. This is where I'll backtrack a little bit from what I said before, but like, where's the building up the body, using your talents to, you know what I mean? Like, you write a worship song. Do you write the worship song so that you can become rich and make money? Or do you write the worship song because it's like a genuine from your heart, Yeah. I know we've totally shifted topics.
No, we're kind of still in the same thing, because like I said, we're not trying to bring down any charities, World Vision, One Child, any of these things. The point of that is, if you're going to give to any charity, whatever, anytime you're going to write a check, sign up for automatic withdrawals, do research on that charity, figure out, is this something? And that's what all these watchdog charity websites said. They're like, we're not here to say don't give your money to charities. Charities are good things. The point we're looking at is what the Christian music industry has turned that into. They've turned the charity, giving to charity, into a $1 million business. They've turned the idea of signing people up to give to charities into their own business. They're skimming the top, if you would, and again, it's all legal. I mean, the charity admits they said, yeah, we do this because there's no one better to boost our people signing up than a Christian celebrity or a Christian, the top Christian band that's out there. If they promote our charity, we're going to get thousands of new signups. Nothing wrong with that. It's all legal. We're not saying it's not. But the idea of turning this into a business to the point where people are suing each other over those promotional payouts, those not royalties, but those bonuses that these bands are getting, or these middlemen companies that say, hey, we'll bring you this many. That fight over that money, what Sunday morning worship, and that's why that's in the same spectrum, because Christian music has gone to crap since the early 2000s. It's horrible. I don't listen to Christian music anymore.
Dude, okay. Thank you. Because, like, the 80s and 90s was, like, peak Christian music. Early 2000s,
it was.
A little bit. Yeah.
And, the idea that, because, like, here's the thing. I love some good Christian worship songs. I've enjoyed them. But like you said, the Christian industry said, we're making more money, and they do. If you sing, if every church is singing a Chris Tomlin song on Sunday morning, Chris Tomlin for a while was the top earner, and there's a few other, Hillsong, Bethel, they're all top earners. They're making more money on Sunday morning royalties than they are on radio stations. They don't care if their song gets played on a radio station. They're getting, that's pennies to compare to what they're getting if your song is sung on Sunday morning. And so what they've said is, well, let's just write more worship songs. And so the Christian industry decided to say, let's write worship songs. And I listened to that 1 Degree of Andy podcast. He was a part of For Him. And he interviews Christian artists from the 90s and 80s. He's had, I think just recently he finally had Michael W. Smith on. I need to listen to that one. But a lot of these guys talk about early 2000s that I think Elisa Childers actually was one of them. She said, yeah, they came to me and said, we want you to do a worship album. And she's like, no, I'm not doing a worship album. And they're like, well, then we're not going to do another album with you because we only want worship albums now.
Yeah.
And she's like, no. And that's when she got out of Christian music. And there's a lot of artists like that's the route. It was like, we want you to do a worship album. Well, what did we see? I mean, how many of these bands all of a sudden started doing worship albums because they were trying to get into the Sunday morning market?
Yeah.
And the producers and the executive producers and the record labels, they all said, no, we want worship music because that's where the money's going. Money's going because we're making more money on Sunday. People are ditching hymns and, and I think, I don't know if it was Sonic Flood. I think they might have been one of the first ones. They did a worship song and just made a killing. Like they were getting all this money, and so we've turned Sunday morning worship into a marketplace.
Yeah.
And one of the things, I'm just going to, I'm already going to be like thumbs upping the church we've been visiting. We went today again. But they're a little, I almost said lethargic. They're a liturgical church, but they don't wear the robes. But they're Presbyterian.
Yeah, it's a different type.
And it's and I love it because it's a hymns only church. They're just singing hymns.
Sure.
And nobody's getting royalties.
Yeah.
Off of this. Like it's not a marketplace for the music industry,
sure,
which I'm happy about. I don't think people should be making money on Sunday morning worship. I don't think it should be something to where potentially, just like what's happening with Christian concerts, Now you have lawsuits fighting over money based on getting people to sign up
Yeah.
for these charities. And I think it's disgusting. I think what this industry that's doing this, and you're doing it for profit, that's the only reason why you're announcing these charities is to make this money. And that's disgusting, and especially to start now sue somebody over this idea that I lost $50 million in children's signups, or signing people up to give to charities. I mean, it's disgusting, and it's not, to me, that's not Christianity.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's funny you said that the music turned to crap in the early 2000s because they were looking for worship music. I think that's around the time that Newsboys did their worship album, and yeah, it just didn't hit for me. Like, I just didn't like it. But totally aside for everything that we're talking about, but in the 80s and 90s, right? Like, it didn't matter to me, and I was young, so maybe that's the biggest reason, but like, it didn't matter to me what the theology or denominational affiliation Christian bands were, right? They were a good alternative to, being a preteen and teen, right? They're a good alternative to whatever's out there in the world, And so, like, Newsboys, Take Me to Your Leader is a super fun album, right?
Oh yeah,
It's littered with Christian imagery and vocabulary. I don't know. I haven't walked through verse by verse of the songs if they're like theologically sound, but it's not a worship album, right? It's just a fun music album, and it has positive Christian values in it, and it's like those songs get stuck in your head, and it's fun, right? And it probably doesn't really matter that the theology isn't super solid on every song, because that's not the purpose. It's not worship. It's not even like it's just to be Christian alternative. Michael W. Smith, dude, had some great hits in the 80s and even into the early 90s. And then he kind of got into the worship space too. But like, they're just really good songs. You listen to some of his old stuff, like his early stuff. Stephen Curtis Chapman, same thing. Some of his early stuff is just solid, good, fun music. And even DC Talk's Jesus Freak album, that's not a worship album. The song Jesus Freak is not a worship song. You could not sing that on Sunday morning. But it's so fun.
I mean, you could try.
You could try, yeah. But it's just a fun song about,
right.
something about a guy's belly tattoo wiggling and stuff. I don't know. It's just
like marmalade jelly.
Yeah, like marmalade jelly, yeah. And I'm just saying, like, Christian music was good because it was fun, it was thought-provoking, and it had a Christian message, but it wasn't meant for worship or liturgy, right? Where I think we see one of the bigger problems of this whole thing we're talking about, and again, this is probably a whole separate conversation we should have sometime, but when the industry starts demanding worship music, right? Well, guess what? What sells better? Not good, solid, historical Christian theology. No, you want something that's broad Christianity, which is probably why, like, things are kind of connecting in my head here, is probably why so many early 2010s worship songs are basically Jesus Is My Boyfriend song. Because it's super broad. It's just any denomination could technically sing it because it's such huge range of like of theology. Like it's not really pinned down at all. And so honestly, some worship songs by groups like Bethel and Hillsong and stuff, it's not that the theology itself is bad. Like, yes, there are some songs with bad theology, but there are some songs that it's not even technically bad theology. It's just not specific theology that it's like, why would we sing this? This isn't specific enough. And then obviously for me, I have the big issue with, well, royalties are going to that. Plus you're pointing people to those churches who are teaching very bad things. We've talked a lot about Bill Johnson. We even had an episode called "Is Bill Johnson a Heretic?" I think we decided that he was, for denying the two natures of Christ, essentially. But why would you then, why would you encourage people to listen to those songs, to listen to Bill Johnson, to even point to it if you're a good, solid church? So I think that the Christian music industry has just become, I don't really listen to a lot of Christian music, new stuff, just being completely honest.
Right, yeah.
I do still listen to the old stuff. Jars of Clay, their first 2 or 3 albums, my favorite, like Much Afraid is one of my favorite albums of all time.
Yeah.
I think that's mid-90s.
It's funny, that's one of my favorite albums of theirs, but it's also the most word salad songs you'll ever hear. Like,
oh,
it's just like,
but it's not worship.
like if they had an AI generator, that's what they used. It's for these songs.
It was
pre-AI, but they're just
it
was pre-AI, but they're awesome. And I think too, you look at back then, because they're like, we grew up in California, so there was this whole grunge rock scene that a lot of those bands never made it into the CCM because it wasn't the style for them that CCM was looking for. But you had like Dime Store Prophets, so many just little indie bands in that whole area, and very few of them broke through to the thing. So I just remember passing around CDs like, hey, you got to hear this band,
dude,
and
everyone should check out Dime Store Prophets.
Dude, Dime Store Prophets, still my favorite band. Like,
one of the best. Yeah,
I can't not listen to them at least once every little bit. And
we also got to, just real fun, we got to see Switchfoot before they were famous out in California.
I know, dude. Yeah, they used to play down in San Diego and
playing at the colleges,
Marietta. Yep, Marietta, California. That was Switchfoot was from there.
Now I feel like Switchfoot has kind of maintained their credibility because they've kind of left the CCM world, but yet still maintain their Christian identity for the most part.
Sure, yeah.
And their lead singer did some solo albums where he was like really introspective.
Yeah. Oh, those are great albums. Yeah. I mean,
and you could just kind of hear his heart of like the CCM world was just destroying his soul, it seems like.
Sure, yeah. I really liked and I haven't checked on them lately, but I think Native Tongue was the last album they released. It was like 5 or 6 songs.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I mean, it was great.
They've consistently put out some decent stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But
for a long time.
Hello Hurricane is still my favorite song.
Oh yeah.
That's of theirs, yeah.
See, I'm partial to the what was that, the Learning to Breathe.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
Like one of their first,
The Beautiful
albums.
Letdown.
No, it was before that. It was
there was Legend of Chen.
That was their first album, I think.
Yeah.
The second or third album was the orange one.
New Way to Be Human.
New Way to Be Human. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That album.
There's some good
I love
songs
that
on
album.
Theirs, yeah. If you haven't noticed, this is our episode where we're just in the weeds. So we're definitely going all over the place. So Wes Campbell, his lawsuit, he doesn't care about Michael Tait in this lawsuit. What's bothering him is a former employee of his that he fired, who was a female. She is alleging S misconduct, SA, by Michael Tait and another person, which I believe is related to Wes Campbell. He's saying this was consensual, that the three of them did this consensually. And she was fired by Wes Campbell and went to a competitor secondary company. So he's
like
alleging
broker.
like the broker for like against his what would you say it was Thrive,
Yeah, something like
something
that.
like that, which is my guess. It wasn't clear in the Variety magazine, but my guess is that's that Switzerland firm went to work for them, and basically
Gotcha.
he's saying that she made all this up to steal customers, and that's why they all conspired, steal band members, whatever, conspired against him to steal these, these child sponsors.
Hmm.
And he his thing was like, it was just three adults doing consensual things that you would see on any, on the computer any day. So no morality for him.
You can't see my face palm that I like.
Right,
I'm literally
yeah.
just like.
So
What?
he's basically saying that this, one, that it was consensual, two, that it's okay because it was three adults that just wanted to, have some fun, nothing you wouldn't watch on the internet. So zero morality from this guy. Zero, like, man, I'm just devastated that if these allegations are true, this is bad. Like, not like, hey, let's find out if she's lying or not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of one of the conversations my wife and I had. Let's just pretend, okay, that it was all consensual. Okay.
Yeah.
It was still a big moral failure on Michael Tait's part and this person that was related to Wes Campbell. And yes, it would be a moral failure on her part if, but then they fire her.
Also, if
And
if this third person is related to him,
right.
there's a little bit of conflict of interest here to be the
Absolutely.
one, like,
Yeah.
in
Absolutely.
in a real corporation. If the boss's nephew or son or cousin is accused of inappropriate behavior,
Right.
you'd have like an HR department or an outside firm investigate it so that like the boss doesn't retaliate against the person claiming it. You know what I mean? So like,
Sure.
yeah, like he should not have been the one to just be like, you're fired because you accused my relative of doing this and you're lying now.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, you're victim shaming. You're
yeah.
All these different things.
Oh yeah.
It's like,
yeah. and the point too is like, if I was talking to my buddy Paul today, and he's a mechanic, and but he's a mechanic, he's a pool boy. What else is he?
Don't let him get near Jerry Falwell's son.
Yeah, no. Dude, wow. No, he can do everything, man. He can do it all. And we joke, he's Paul. He knows it all in a good way.
Sure.
But anyway, so he's a mechanic. So if he got fired, he's got to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And work and become a mechanic. So this woman that they fired,
right,
her job was that market to set up.
Yeah.
For these, to set up for stuff and arrange for the one child matters, whatever it was, the vision.
Right,
World
she's
Vision.
a broker for
Those,
charities.
That's her no. So of course she's going to go to another firm or whatever these are called and try to get a job there. And so she did. She got hired on at another place. And of course she's going to take the knowledge that she has and use that. And so if you scorned this woman by firing her, calling her a liar, all these things, then she's going to try to take business from you. Just like, it's like I was telling Paul, if you got fired and you went to another company and people started calling you, hey, you still over at that one place? No, I'm over here now. Why don't you come over here and I'll work on your car over here? That's legal. It's not illegal
unless you sign a non-compete clause.
Sure, yeah. I mean, yeah, and
so
I don't think that's mentioned that there's a non-compete clause in this.
Because a lot of times in big corporations, it'll say you'll have to sign something when you leave, Like
Right.
you can't work for a competitor for 1 to 2 years or
Sure.
something,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
3
Usually
years.
they give you a really good
Severance,
severance
yeah,
package that's 1 to 2 years of income.
yeah.
So none of that is mentioned in this
Okay,
lawsuit.
yeah.
So it doesn't appear that she had a non-compete clause or anything. But again, even within all that,
Yeah,
okay, even if it was consensual, she's got a non-compete clause, all that stuff. The fact that other bands, corporations looking in at the Newsboys, being Christian, being in the industry, are gonna pull away and back away from this guy.
yeah,
You can't you can't blame this woman. You can't blame Julie Roy's. You can't blame some firm. You need to look at who brought you down, who brought the Newsboys down,
yeah,
and it was Michael Tait. What he was doing. Now, again, we know there's going to be more aftermath. There's going to be more people around Michael Tait that helped cover it up, and I hope they get exposed. I hope these people that helped cover this up, it'll continue to come out, and they won't get away with what they did. But this is what happens when leaders fall. Is it may be a year from now, it may be 5 years from now,
yeah.
but things are just going to keep coming out. And so the thing is these these people need to just, you got to come out now and just say, hey, it's
So I was just looking on here as you were talking. this story keeps getting weirder.
oh
Did
no,
you hear about the other lawsuit? So Wes Campbell and his family is being sued for $600,000 by a church.
interesting.
So yeah, like I said, this whole story, we should start looking into it. And this Wes Campbell guy, it's just weird.
Sure, yeah.
So,
And,
basically, his little brother is Steve Campbell. Yeah, Steve Campbell is Wes Campbell's brother, and so there was he was accused of abuse of something, and anyways, long story short, there was a church that split, and so according to the lawsuit, the plaintiff is asking for up to $200,000 in compensation and $400,000 in punitive damages. And so his parents and his children are named in the lawsuit, and he is as well. So basically, there was a church split, and because of some of what he did. Anyways, like I said, I'll post the links to some of these because I don't want to get into the weeds too much as we already have a lot, but there's another lawsuit in this
sure, yeah,
that I just discovered.
right.
So he's suing for damages. Someone else is suing him for damages that is totally unrelated to it.
Right.
This is and again, he's part of this other lawsuit is his younger brother, so maybe that was one of the people involved in this with this lady. I don't know, but Steve Campbell was accused of assault, and
right.
Wes covered that up, or allegedly covered it
sure,
up. I guess we should say that
allegedly.
So his family is shady, at least. Now these may be all allegations. I'll give the grain of salt, or you know what I mean. Sure, they're all allegations, but it's kind of like any of the big stories of today, right? Big famous people and politicians and things like that. It's eventually, if you get accused of things by so many people, maybe there's some truth to it. Maybe you are in the documents that should be released. I don't know. I'm just saying. Maybe there's something going on here with Campbell that he's a shady guy, maybe,
Sure,
allegedly a shady guy. And the fact that he only cares, and I like that you're really kind of driving this point home. He only cares about the money. He doesn't care about the victims. He doesn't care about the people. And to kind of bring it back in slightly to a lot of the bad fruit we talk about, because we talk about church hurt and different things like that. I was thinking about it as we've been listening to this, or as we've been talking. This happens in churches too, right? Because it's like the pastor does these things, and what do the elders do? What do the other pastors do? They go into damage control, because we don't, like, if that person gets caught, then we might lose tithe. We might not be able to do that big men's conference next year. And so it's like, hush, hush, put it under the rug. It's just damage control. And at the end of the day, the reason it's damage control is not to help victims or to get people help they need. Even the perpetrators, to not actually restore them with genuine help that they actually need. It's about money. All of it is about money. Because when you start running your church or your organization or your ministry like a business, when you start thinking of yourself as a CEO, then money is the main thing, right? A CEO, like, and I don't blame CEOs for this, right? If you hire me to run, Walmart, right? My job is to make Walmart more money. It's not to take care of people. It's to make money. That's the job. And you'll fire me if we don't make money. Right? But the church is not a business. A pastor's not a CEO. So, and like with this, this is supposed to be about helping kids. It's supposed to be about using these bands and the platform that they have to put these charities in front of them. And maybe that's not really a bad thing at the end of the day. Maybe that's not. Maybe you generally do actually get to help a lot of people with this. But the fact that he's like, I should have gotten a $50 million and I didn't because of all of this crap. No, you should not have gotten dude, you're literally whining about not skimming off of the top of charities. That's literally what you're whining about.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is, and that was our point. Like I said, if World Vision has the funds, they're doing what they can do, and they can pay $500 a kid to these celebrities and these bands, then that's their prerogative. It's legal. They do it. But it's this guy's whiny, blaming everybody but the guy who brought him down, and then demanding that he get that money. That this is my money. Yeah. I get to skim off the top. I'm the one that had the monopoly on this area, and now this how dare this other company come in and try to sell children subscriptions to anybody but outside of me. And it's hilarious. One man owning this shell type company, getting $50 million from World Vision it's just insane to me. But I want to say something too in this. I was talking with my buddy Paul, and he was telling me about all these secular bands from our childhood who are giving their life to Christ. They lived that drug world, party, all that stuff, and now they're turning to Christ. They're becoming Christians. He was telling me Seven. I think they were called Seven Dust. I don't think I ever listened to them, but the lead singer, he's a Christian now. And then
Papa Roach.
Yeah, Jacoby. Yeah. So yep. So he Papa Roach got kicked out of their own our town, Vacaville, and went on to be a very, very famous band. But yeah, that Jacoby, he's a born again Christian now, and just hearing these stories, I know there's a few others in the past too that I've come
Korn.
Korn. Yep, I remember him.
Brian Welch from Korn. He became a Christian.
It just really shows that like wherever these bands, and just hearing like there's a couple bands he was telling me about too that are Christian bands that came out and said, I was never really a Christian. I just did it for the money, that kind of thing. I'm not even into this. And you just look at this music industry, whether you call yourself Christian or not, the awesome thing about the gospel is these non-Christian bands, they're going to come across some true Christians. They're going to hear the word of God, and they're going to get saved. And then you have people who are sheep in wolves' clothes, or I should say wolves in sheep's clothes.
I'm sure there's wolves' clothes. Yeah. They're just hiding out. They're too.
That's a great idea, dude.
They're like,
I'm a sheep in wolves' clothes.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have these wolves in sheep's clothes, and they're going to get exposed too.
Yeah.
And God is not going to be mocked by these cover-ups, by these lies, these things. The truth comes out eventually. Mm-hmm. And the word of God does not return void. And so when you hear about these secular bands, these lead singers who tried everything, they're literally being able to live out Ecclesiastes and King Solomon, like everything I wanted, I was able to have right in front of me. I could get this, I could get that. Nothing. I didn't reject anything my eyes saw. I think is kind of a paraphrasing Ecclesiastes, and all that was meaningless.
Yeah.
And seeing that, just it gives you this hope that, like, man, those people coming to Christ after they had everything the world offered. And then you got this guy who claims to be a Christian, the owner of Newsboys, not caring about the morality of Michael Tait and his family member and this young woman, not caring about that. And again, like I said, even if those allegations, if she's lying,
sure, yeah,
and it was all consensual, the morality of that should break his heart. And then if it was something worse, which most likely it was, knowing Michael Tait and and these other allegations, is that should break his heart. That should cause him to repent and say, this happened under my watch. But instead, what does he do? The people that exposed his empire, that's who he goes after.
Mm-hmm.
And over skimming off the top of charities, that's his complaint. Like, I'm entitled to this money. It just shows, like, I mean, it breaks my heart seeing it. And reading the comments on that Variety magazine article is just that thing. It's like, man, there goes my whole childhood. And there's a couple funny ones I should have screenshotted, but it was like, things I didn't think that I could be shocked about. Now I'm shocked about, stuff like that. Like, wow, where have we gone? So
I'm going to just once again remind everyone that Peter was there in the 90s with Newsboys.
Peter Furler, yeah.
Those albums are good.
Oh,
so my childhood is still preserved.
Yeah, there you go.
Peter, come back. Wherever you are. No, dude, and you're absolutely right. Like, it's really sad. I remember distinctly in the early-ish 2000s, there was not really a boy band, because it was like a group band, but it was like a boy band, but they were a Christian band, and I cannot remember their name right now. But basically, it was like 3 dudes and 2 girls, and they would like dance around and like, real high energy, and basically it was like a Christian equivalent of like one of those bands or whatever.
Instead of Hanson, it was Samson.
Yeah, something. Yeah, no, that'd be good actually. Yeah, but anyways, I'll have to look it up and we can talk about it some other time. But I'll just say this part because I do remember this part. It got caught that they were sleeping with their fans, and one of the guys, if I remember correctly, this part either openly admitted that he wasn't a Christian, or he basically was like, I'm not like that big of a Christian. Like, I believe, but I'm not. Either he was an atheist or agnostic, or I can't remember exactly what it was, but he basically is like, I'm not really a Christian. I'm just here because it was a way to make money. And the band only had like 1 album. They had a couple hits off of it, maybe 2 albums. And I just remember listening to this story break, and I think it was like on K Love that they were even talking about it. So like this was like Christian sources were even exposing this back then. But it was like, wait a minute. I thought these were Christian bands. Like I have this illusion that all these Christian bands are going around and they're going to be ethical on their tour and they're going to be doing all this. And I was a teenager at the time and just like shocked that this would be going on at with a Christian band. Well, fast forward, we now know of so many bands where this was going on. So many bands so many Christian bands where the band was sleeping with fans, where the band was doing all kinds of stuff, drugs, like the whole Christian music industry gets shattered once you start looking behind the curtain. And I really do think we should talk about it because they built these people up as role models. And they introduced the worship in the early 2000s. They introduced this whole industry, like contemporary Christian music is a whole industry. And industry is the right word for it because it's all about money. And they don't care about the artists. Like the labels don't care about the artists. That they're having moral failures, that they're sleeping with fans, sleeping with each other, whatever it might be. They don't care because they care about money. And that's at the end of the day, that's all they care about. And they care that you're singing their songs in your church so that they can get the royalty checks. And so it makes sense that in that environment, of course, Campbell's going to be worried about his bottom dollar. So I think we should talk about Christian music next time or soon.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a great,
we'll
great
continue the
follow-up.
conversation.
Did you know, this is totally a side note, but when you were talking about Christian secular bands and secular band members who became Christian, did you know, I didn't know this, but 21 Pilots is a Christian band. Now, they're not a Christian band in the sense of like CCM, but the members are. Like the main songwriter, and I think it's his brother or his friend, are both professing Christians.
Yeah,
which is super interesting because they're pretty like good songs.
Right. Oh yeah, no, there's definitely biblical.
They remind me of like the old '90s Christian music, where it was like, another band that a lot of people don't know is Christian anymore because they've like totally dropped that branding, and good for them, honestly. But is Chevelle. Yeah. Chevelle's a Christian band, and they've now completely dropped that. They've actually got cussing in some of their songs, but they're still technically themselves Christians, and the morality of their songs is still very much rooted in Christian ethics at least.
And I think, and that's and we'll talk more about that. Let's continue this. More of a Christian music episode, but that idea that it's okay, like I have a business. I'm a Christian and I have a business, but it's not a Christian business.
Yeah.
But I practice my business ethically, but I don't have little fish underneath my logo. I don't tell people right when I see him.
You're not exploiting Jesus to make more money.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I'm not like, Jesus loves you, here's my estimate, and but it's that idea, like you can be a musician and not even talk about Christ in your music, and that's okay. Like you can have good music that's not, but with your life, that's where you should be living your Christian faith, not necessarily in your work. People will see the quality of your work and want to know more about you versus what the Christian industry right now is. You turn on the local Christian radio stations and it's like it hurts your ears to listen to it. It's just like, whoa, and there are, I'm gonna be fair, there are some good Christian music. There is good Christian music out there right now that's new. I just don't find out about it through the radio. I don't listen to the Christian radio anymore. And they do, that's a whole nother story, the radio stations around here. But this whole idea of, listening to the radio, all that stuff, if I hear about a Christian band and somebody's like, hey, you got to listen to this, and I'm like, hey, I like that, I'll add that to my playlist. But yeah, I'm not. My hopes right now on the Christian music industry is pretty low.
Yeah. No, I like what you said there. You're like, your life, you should have the ethics. And with Campbell, it's sure he's like officially associated with a Christian band.
Yeah. But I'm the Newsboys, man. I own the Newsboys. Give me my money.
But his ethics is very, very questionable. Well, I think that is enough of this topic for today. And I think that we should continue this conversation about CCM, Christian music, worship music, and get more into the specifics. Let's talk about that next time. So thank you so much for listening to the Bad Fruit Podcast, and I hope that you will join us again as we continue this conversation. If you would like to email us your thoughts, questions, comments, whatever it might be, you can do so at badfruitpodcast@gmail.com. Also, if you would please follow us on Facebook, just look for our Bad Fruit Podcast logo there. And I post updates there and links and different things that we talk about in the episodes on there. And yeah, I think that's everything. So
yeah, I think, and also we're going to put a QR code. If you scan that QR code and sign up to sponsor a charity, that would be great. We're looking to get 1,000 kids signed up by the end of the month. And oh wait,
we only get $400.
Yeah, we're not taking the
per
full 500. We're just getting paid 400 to do it.
No, we're not doing that. All right. Well, God bless. We'll talk to you next time.